Hello, good morning. I am Shannon Wise. I am here with Emily McAllister. We are with the Anxiety and OCD Treatment Center of Central Pennsylvania. And we are going to talk today just a little bit about pandemic body image and what that's been like for us, and any extra knowledge we might have, we'll share. I think this is something that a lot of people have experienced. And yeah, so we're here to chat about that. And what it's kind of been like as like life has been returning to the new normal, whatever that is. And I think, I don't know, Emily, do you have anything you want to start off saying here as we go into this discussion?
Yeah, I think for myself and a lot of other people, making that transition from being, very isolated in the beginning of the pandemic and then transitioning back into society, like that's felt like a lot for a lot of us. And I do think it is important to have conversations surrounding that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think an experience I had was putting jeans on the other day.
Mhm.
And I realized, wow, this is like the second time I've worn jeans in like maybe close to 3 years now. And so I know a lot of us have been working from home and wearing, exercise clothing, stretch pants,
Mhm.
leggings, yoga pants, whatever we want to call them. And I think I mean, certainly that has affected me. And I think it's definitely affected how I feel about my body as I'm putting on jeans and noticing the way they feel on my body.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something very different. And I think originally, like, I felt like really comfortable with wearing comfy clothes. Like, the idea of it at first sounded really good. But, right, how, like, making that transition back to putting on real clothing and how does my body feel different? And how can I accept this and be kind to myself through that?
Hmm. Yeah, I've noticed even like a shift. It's not that I go shopping very often, but I've even noticed a shift in the style of clothing out there that's available. I feel like we've shifted as a society to loungewear being
Mhm.
like the new normal of like attire that's out there to shop for. So I think just overall, like that's what's being promoted, because
Yeah.
people are still continuing to work from home. But again, like I said, at least for me, I know that it does not feel great to be
Mhm.
doing that. At first I was like, well, then I can exercise. If I'm wearing leggings, I can exercise in the middle of the day.
Right.
And that is true. But at the same time, I think it also allows for you to continue to stretch your pants. And so I know a lot of people have struggled with weight gain, myself included,
Mhm.
um, having like unlimited access to food while working from home, emotionally eating, just
Mhm.
kind of having less movement overall, and less interaction with others, throughout your day.
Yeah, definitely. I totally hear that part of just like being in comfortable clothing, having access to food, and not having all of those like social interactions or routines that you had before. So then maybe you want to do something that feels good, and maybe eating a really delicious snack feels good, and then you're bored, and then you're just eating. So, like, a lot comes with that. And it does feel strange not having those routines or that movement. I mean, even things as simple as like walking out to your car every day or parking in your parking lot of your employers and walking into the building, like all of those things are lost too.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I used to walk up and down stairs every hour to get clients for sessions, and now I'm sitting here staring at a screen. And yeah, there's a lot less movement happening in my days. Um, so I know, Emily, you and I have had slightly different experiences, like as the pandemic happened, just with working.
Mm-hmm.
You were working in the community at the time. I was doing therapy, and my practice went fully virtual at that time.
Right.
And it continues to be virtual because that has kind of been the trend and what folks really want now. But what was your experience like you were working for children and youth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when the pandemic hit initially, we were mostly remote. Like I was able to work from my apartment, but then there were like certain situations or emergencies we still had to go in the field. But at that point, when it first hit, that required us to wear like full like hazmat suits, gloves, masks. So all of that was really uncomfortable too. And there was like a lot of fear associated with that for like myself and the families I was working with. And then as we learned more about, the coronavirus and COVID, and taking other precautions, like we were able to eventually like kind of stagger towards like wearing just masks or just gloves. And but I also had a lot of time working at home and wearing comfortable clothing. But so yeah, it was kind of all over the place, as far as like what I was wearing and how I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, I was reading that there was a study done by, I think it's Chapman University, and they had showed that when women were asked about how the pandemic had influenced their body image, the results showed that 48% of females said it contributed to negative thoughts about their weight, and 43% of females said it affected their feelings of attractiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing I wanted to kind of talk about just briefly here with you, Emily, is just like the use of like increased use of screens,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe focusing more on flaws, and also social media and how there are so many increases in comparisons. Like I know I see that within my practice, of what I've been doing, or, I mean, just in general. And then I think related to the pandemic as well.
Yeah, I totally feel that for sure. And just spending more time on a screen, we're home more. You're trying to fill your time, your days aren't as regimented, and you're not really doing as many activities as you were. So, right, you're on your screen more, you're on social media, comparing yourself. And another thing I found to be really difficult was like the use of filters. So you're kind of using a filter to improve your appearance. And then, maybe like at least myself, like I've gotten used to that. So then to see myself without a filter, like maybe I'll have some judgment about that. And I like kind of have this idea of like what my face looks like that's not actually my face. And then you get used to that. And then it's just like so normalized to like a different version of yourself through the use of filters and social media. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so strange.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I think like through the practice of, using social media, or using filters, taking selfies,
Yeah.
whatever kind of thing it is, and then having to look at yourself on a screen, like in this type of setting, or in, a telehealth kind of setting, more where it is unfiltered. Like
Right.
these are unfiltered videos, and I think that is you're seeing more of yourself for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like trying to find ways to be kind to yourself and take a step back and be mindful of that internal dialogue. I mean, I know I've certainly had to do that. I know a lot of people I've talked to have had to check in with themselves about that, because I
Mhm.
think so often we are like really critical of ourselves and we say things to ourselves that we wouldn't say to anyone else that we loved. So
Mhm.
yeah, like really tuning into that and trying to be kind to our bodies and ourselves.
Mhm.
And reminding ourselves too that like a lot of the images that we see on social media, they're not an accurate depiction of reality, right? Like there's filters, there's edits, there's different apps that people use to change their photos. So
Mhm.
just being mindful and realistic about that.
Right. Absolutely. Even just like the ability to change backgrounds and things. I can think of a time I was on a Zoom call with, I think it was Zoom, with one of my friends who's also a therapist. And she had some sort of filter. She might kill me for sharing this, but she had a filter on her background in her, like her kitchen. It was like a background of a kitchen, and I was like, wow, look at your kitchen, it's so neat. And so even that, I found myself like looking at her kitchen and having thoughts about her kitchen and how nice it was. And so I think there's just so many like ways we compare what, you know, what people look like, what they have, like all of this. Yeah, I don't know. I know I even after, so one thing for me, even after spending all day on the screen, like talking to clients, I know that I'm spending even more time in the evening on screens, whether it's like watching television, whether it's YouTube. I have never been a person who's watched YouTube videos, but here I am watching
Yeah.
YouTube videos and looking at social media. It's just become way more excessive, you know, than it's ever been in my life. Uh,
Yeah.
so I go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
and I was just going to say thanks for bringing up the piece about not only comparing ourselves to other people, but our spaces. And like,
Mhm.
what does that equate to? Like, oh, well, maybe somebody's house looks really nice. Maybe I'm not capable of decorating my house, or maybe I don't make enough money to have these nice things. So
Yeah.
there's so much more to it. And I actually never thought of that component of it until you brought it up, but that definitely exists.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I know we're here supposed to be talking about body image, but I think like there's even so much more to it with the
Mhm.
comparisons. Because I can think of like all the people I know that were doing like home projects and like
Mhm.
fixing up their
Oh,
space
yeah.
during all of this, getting swimming pools. And
Yep.
so just even thinking about that and comparing like situations, you know, and ability to afford those things.
Yep.
So I just think there's so many ways that probably the pandemic has affected how we feel about ourselves just in general.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like for sure, like I completely agree with that. And with the isolation comes a lot of time to yourself and sitting with yourself and giving yourself permission to rest and to not be critical of yourself. Because at least for me, I'm not sure if this resonates with anyone else, but that was the most time I'd ever sat with myself. And a lot can come up during those periods. And like, how are we walking ourselves through that? How are we showing up for ourselves and being kind? Because it can feel really uncomfortable. And I think we're like, luckily now like transitioning out of that as we kind of go back into society and we're kind of going back into our routines and being more active, but that's still something to be really mindful of.
Hmm. I would agree. Um, so since we're here talking about all of these things, maybe we just touch base on like steps to improve how you feel in general, how you feel about your body, how you feel about, you know, your physical self in general. Um, One thing I often use is self-compassion
Mhm.
and just really looking at how I'm talking to myself. And so, um, even though this is not meant to be therapy, I'm just giving
Right.
I'm just giving an example, but you know, maybe taking the time to write a letter to yourself in, you know, in the way that you would want to talk to yourself about something. You know, if you were saying, oh, you know, you really let yourself go during this time, you know, or you should have done more. Think about like what would you really want to say to yourself or to that person that was thinking that way, and kind of doing like a writing exercise, using self-compassion techniques.
I love that. That is just like such a kind gift to give yourself. And like not only thinking it, but like writing it out and seeing it and feeling all of
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Like I might say like, hey, Shannon, it's been a really hard time.
Mhm.
You've been helping lots of people and working through a lot of stuff. And, it's okay to be where you're at. Like kind of saying something like that, just to give an example of
Right,
what that self-compassion would actually look like.
right, definitely. And also too, just expressing some gratitude to your body for helping you. Like this, like your body, your physical body is the vessel that you experience this life in. And like what a gift that is. And thanking your body for walking you through this life, like quite literally. And yeah, just trying to think of all the things that your body allows you to do. And how can you show up with some gratitude and say kind things to your body and yourself.
Right, right. I agree. I love that. I think, even thinking about if you're like being hard on yourself about like looking in
Mm-hmm.
the mirror or the screen and, not liking something about your face, but thinking about how maybe your smile brings some happiness to
Mm-hmm.
others, like focusing on that and being, thankful for that, your body's ability to smile.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I love that.
Yeah, definitely. And two, like just trying to ground yourself in the present moment, engaging all of your senses and taking a minute to really think about like how your body allows you to perceive your experience here.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think finally, as therapists, Emily and I would both recommend therapy and
Mm-hmm.
the use of CBT to kind of help you get to where you want to be, and certainly all the things that fall under CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, but yeah, I think those are all a couple of things, a couple of steps um, towards getting yourself feeling better, in this
Absolutely.
regard. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, thank you, Emily, for
Yeah,
joining me and talking
thank
about
you.
this. And thank you, everyone, for showing up for our video.
Yes, thank you so much.